Hey guys, I feel like we haven't done this in a bit because I don't think we have. Um, since our last live, we only had two meetings. Last one was December 9th. I'll do that here separately. And then November 11th was a meeting before that. Sorry, I've been a little delayed. Some of you guys may have seen some of the things that happened on that agenda through the paper and different other things, but thought I would still give some background to some. Um, And then, sorry for the delay, just with work season, kids stuff, hard to keep up. Um, so I want to kind of go over that. So we'll kind of go over the agenda from November 11th, 2025. Um, Normal activities down through approval of the consent agenda, which, as you know, is all of the regular committee meeting minutes from the prior month. Um, and then approval of purchase orders to the tune of 243,000. There were no board appointments. We reviewed financial statements, and we always get those ahead of time. And so, as you look at like overall general government financial revenue, I'm going to kind of pull that up for. Here we go. I showed about a $32,000 shortfall for November. Sales tax revenue. Look through expenses. There were some OMAG things related to some of the repairs at PD we talked about prior. There were expenses for fire truck on the annual payment of $97K. One thing worth noting, we moved like $251,000 from long-term reserve, just with some of the shortfalls we've had in the prior sort of fiscal year. But overall, and there were three payrolls in this current period, so expenses were a little bit higher than one would expect from that point of view. But so we sort of looked at for city government, all those things. We approved the financials following some discussion of some of those things. Wasn't anything really crazy in that regard. Kind of went through after approval of the financial minutes. We approved the fee schedule basically for the city attorney. There were no changes to standard sort of fees for services provided by Garvin A.G. Carlton in regards to city attorney legal counsel for all city public trusts and authorities. And that was approved. We approved a quote from DLSR Pros in the amount of $6,270. And the cool thing on that, it was for a drone. It's not going to cost the city any type of money. A grant paid for the drone. And so you're going to see that being used for various things related to police business and some of the city things from that perspective. And so I think that's really great, right? And so didn't cost city anything, is going to enhance the PD. Consideration of a contract for drug testing for CDL drivers. And that was done for the city. Looked at budget adjustments. Discussion of update on code on building 100 at Arrowhead Building 500 in Pauls Valley. And so discussions about, we've talked about them getting it in the dry, getting a roof on it, as far as that goes. And they had a certain period of time to be able to do so. And they were, at that time, they were sort of working through that. What I can tell you is we got to the meeting in December 9th. A roof had been put in siding, but there's still some fairly significant concerns in regards to the overall structure of trusses and what's supporting them. There's been engineers brought in to sort of look at that from, around the time of 11/11 through the time of 12/9. And so there's still an ongoing process going on there with regards to that building and the overall safety of it. So not quite sure where that's going to land, and there's some that building and the overall safety of it. So not quite sure where that's going to land, and there's some things with planning and zoning that I've talked to some members on that committee in regards to ways that some of these things are handled, because things go to beautification, which is great, but there's no one from planning and zoning attached. And so maybe some of these things should flow to planning and zoning for the recommendation for it makes to the council. I think that may have been brought up on Tuesday at their meeting, and we'll see how that kind of plays out. And I think that seems like an appropriate way to sort of do business if that's how they want to present that to us at the next council meeting. We heard a consideration from the aquatics pool director in regards to um, approving some funds for repair and maintenance of the plaster at the pool exteriorly here, to the tune of about $31,000, and that would help us get a few years down the road. There really needs to be a $250,000 outlay to do sort of an upgrade to the plaster at the park pool. But with the way can be in a better financial position to be able to do the 250,000, and so that was approved. We had a special ordinance considering the sale of real property and equipment that was owned by PVMA, City of Pauls Valley. I know there's been some discussion of selling some acreage out by Longmire. And so that was sort of in relation to that. And we sort of approved for him to move, the city manager to move forward with taking bids and looking at that process of selling that land. And then we'll have some uses for it that I'll speak of in my next live in regards to 12.9 that I'll do right after I get done doing this one. We had a consideration of surplusing some spend bikes from the rec center for the rec center to sort of to make sure that there wasn't any other additional uses for those bikes or any other programming, and there isn't at this time, and so those things would be considered to be surplus. We surplus an airport vehicle. It was no longer needed and excessive in repairs. This was a good one. Consideration, and we heard a commentary from PAWS as well as our animal control in regards to use of a property for a new animal shelter that's in the industrial district. And the one thing that I would say, I know I've heard this has been in the paper and some people have talked about this, but PAWS as a private nonprofit 501c3 has thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in services and actual services in Pauls Valley. What we would be basically giving them is, like a 2.5 acre parcel out at the industrial district. They would fundraise every bit of the funds for the new animal shelter and facility. I think this is a no-brainer sort of thing, and we had sort of approved for them to move forward if that site was deemed appropriate to start their fundraising efforts. And they just wanted confirmation that the city would be supportive, and we obviously are. Again, PAWS does so much for animal control services, so it's kind of a no-brainer. They've been a great partner for the city and saves the city a tremendous amount of dollars, and we're very lucky to have them as a city partner. So I was very happy to approve that with the rest of the council. And there was a little bit of discussion on 11/11 in regards to the viability and cost of the cookie noodling event, discussion of festival versus tournament, and so some of that stuff we'll get into. I'll save that for the next live here in a few minutes. Looking through the agenda, make sure I didn't miss anything. The one thing that I would say that I'd asked, I know, we were approved for OWRB loan. Joe went to the meeting, and so we've been approved for that. I've asked him for details in regards to the terms, interest, years for the debt service in relation to the water plant improvements and upgrades that are going to occur. They were associated with water rate increases. And so be on the lookout for that information to come as well in the near future. And that was most of what we did for the city council meeting on that date. We closed city government meeting in regards to general government, moved to PVMA in the municipal authority dollars in purchase orders. We had about a little less than $100,000 shortfall in regards to PVMA, and I think this has been discussed pretty widely. You can't produce water for $6.50 and then sell it for $3.50, and so there's different things for that. There was some repairs on trash trucks and different other things. A sleeve valve based on a water leak that we had to sort of address, but those things happen. And so from that perspective, we had a shortfall. So $585,000 in revenue against $678,000 in expense with PVMA. Those financials were approved. We looked through fiscal budget adjustments, no issues there. We acknowledge receipt of a permit for relocation and construction of a 18-inch raw water line. It was just going to be moved. There really wasn't anything else in PBMA outside of that. So pretty basic stuff. That meeting was closed. So that was the extent of the 11/11 meeting. And so I'll go ahead and close this live, and I'll open up another sort of podcast, if you will, in relation to the meeting we just had on 12/9. So I will see you guys in that next meeting.